Okay, look, it's we took a loss, but we're still number one. Still number one. Uno. I'll take that.
We are number one.
We are number one. Like, like rest in peace, my man. But we're still number one. As you can kind of see here, 49ers are creeping up, Arizona and Arizona and Los Angeles, they're still on the bottom. They're going to probably be trading blows until someone can scrap their way up to the top. But right now, still Seahawks on top as of today.
I'll take it, dude.
Yeah. Overall, we're just going to kind of just talk about what else happened in the league, and we can just start it off with get started from the Rams and the Bears game.
And
I'll start there.
yeah,
Oh,
we
what's
should
up?
also say if you want to go check out what we had to say on the Seahawks, we're going to skip that, but be sure to check that video.
Oh, yes, please do. Kanal here was very hot about the refs. You got to go check it out for that one.
I'm a very even-tempered man. If that's a word.
Of
No,
course.
I'm not. I am a complete head ass.
Oh yeah. So for now, like I can start off with
Yeah, let's
Rams
go.
versus Bears. Uh, Rams lost 18-24 to the Bears. They don't Rams their offense. I don't know where their offense went with that game, but field goals. I think it was mostly all but field goals in that game because of the score. With the score being 18, you literally can see the 3-3-3-3-9
I I,
in the
I think
last quarter.
I think Kyron Williams had one touchdown for the Rams, but I don't know if they
They
made
tried to.
the.
They probably tried to go for two. I know them.
Yeah,
They tried to go for two. It didn't work. So hey, Kyron Williams, thank you. I mean, you're still my running back in fantasy as always. But Caleb Williams, hey, he pulled out four scoring drives. We'll take that. Glad to see he's kind of like on the other, like on the up and up with the Bears. After we kind of talked about like their lack of how they're calling offensive plays, I would not put it on Caleb with how their offense has been.
there's not a
Uh,
lot of love for Shane Waldron out there in Chicago right now. We'll say that.
oh yeah, that's why he
But
he had to be out. He had to be out from the Seahawks.
Caleb Williams didn't have like an outstanding stat line, but efficient, 7 for 23, a buck 57, and a tud. Like you'll take it.
Yeah, especially when you're starting out, like all the games from jump. You have to also remember, like with rookie quarterbacks, it takes time. It's no quarterback is going to just come in and send your team to the playoff. Stop. I know there was Andrew Luck, but again, that's my definition of a generational talent because
Seahawks did it too
Lord,
with Russ. I mean, but
not
like
Travis
it's you don't want to do it. Like
Lawrence.
our buddy, not our buddy. He doesn't know who we are. But Cam Newton said the same thing on his new Fourth and One podcast. And if you haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out. I find it very insightful, and I like the way Cam talks. He's a good speaker in that sense. But he talks about like the that quarterbacks need to be weaned into being in the NFL.
Yeah,
Um, there he says it in more descriptive detail, but I'll summarize it with that. And I mean, last week at least, I think I was saying that every rookie quarterback deserves a redshirt year because you're
oh
coming
yeah,
from a place that you know it's very schemed.
hmm
In college football, there's a lot of athleticism involved.
a lot of plays fly in college football compared to the NFL too.
Yeah.
Because in the NFL we got to call out like 40-second play. It's not even a play. 40 seconds of it is like probably or not even 40 seconds. You're trying to call everything besides the play, also the formation where everyone's supposed to be on the offense. So that's I think it's too long in the NFL. I'm not saying it needs to be college, but there should be a balance. But that's just me.
Yeah, and so so going back to this game, it took place in Chicago, so like home game, like maybe that's what it came down to. But Matt Stafford had 224 with a pick, but I think that was a bad pick too, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But Rams don't have Cooper Cup, they don't have Puka
They have
Nakua,
Tutu Atwell.
they have Tutu
He's been
Atwell, but they
he's
also
been doing
don't
good for them.
and they also don't have Tyler Higbee. So that's the same as
Mhm.
us saying, what if we didn't have DK, JSN, and Noah Fant, right? We just got Tyler Lockett.
They have Colby Parkinson.
Colby Parkinson, go Seahawks, but it ain't the same.
That's
Um,
true.
but yeah.
Otherwise, like with the one thing in that game from the Bears I did like real quick was DeAndre Swift. I have to call it. You have to call it good running back
Just tell
play.
me he's on your fantasy team.
He's not. I wish he was. See, he had 16 for 93 and a touchdown in that game on top of 7 targets, which he said, I'll take all of those targets and raise you 72 yards. And he was their leading receiver in that game as a running back. So
Which you
give props
expect
to
from a
Swift,
rookie.
right? Otherwise, that's the game there. I think the Rams the injury woes, and they're just trying to work with what they got. It's just one of those things. But what can you do, right?
Yeah.
Next up, I want to just try to get this one out the way. It's the most boring one of it all, but come on. The 49ers and the Patriots. 49ers won 30-13 against the Patriots. There's not much to say besides they were like, yeah, we took that loss. Let's get back right. Let's get right back on track. On track. Brock Purdy, 15 for 27, 288 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Jordan Mason, their cowbell of a running back, 24 carries for 123 yards and a tud. And Jawan Jennings, as always, being their leading receiver right now alongside Debo Samuel. In terms of receptions, not much for a lot of their receivers. They did get a lot of yards, like per reception, but I mean, they controlled the game. It's the thing with Patriots is like, as long as you can get after Jacoby Brissett early and often, you can stop the Patriots' offense. Granted, our defense made it look like Jacoby Brissett might have had something in him, but it's kind of like a thing when your defense isn't all the way there in tune. Because remember, this is the first year with the new head coach who he doesn't have all the players that he wants, and we had to do a lot of free agency in the linebacker department, which that's like our weakest position right now. So otherwise, nothing else to say about that game besides the fact that 49ers are up 2-2. Hopefully, we can build on our wins to stay apace, but there's nothing else to talk about in that one.
Yeah, I mean, only thing I'll add is Brandon Ayuk. Are you there? Still continues to be kind of a ghost. I mean, we hate the 49ers with a passion, but there was a moment, I think it was towards the end of the game, where Brock Purdy was running back to the tunnel and the camera was on him and he goes, "Hi, Mom." Like, come on. I love that.
Gotta have fun.
As a mama's boy myself, I love that. But like I mean, Jacoby Brissett, like we didn't make him look particularly good either. I think they just did a better job at stuffing Ramondre Stevenson because that man runs angry.
Of course.
And the fact that Jordan Mason is putting up a $123, that has a lot to do with it as well.
What other running back in that system isn't going to go off, right?
It's that offense. Again, as long as you have Trent Williams in that offensive line, like we talked about this, and I don't know if we. I don't think.
I think Trent Williams is on IR. I thought he's out.
He was playing.
He was.
I'm pretty sure.
I thought he was out on injury.
No, I can double check that. But what I'll say is, at least in the Seahawks game, Kenneth Walker came back and he had a lot of success running along that left side of the offensive line. Why? Because he had a fella named Charles Cross up there blocking for him. And I think Trent Williams did the same thing. It looks like he's still in there. Yeah, there's nothing about injury here, so I think he played that game.
Okay, he wasn't inactive. Okay, because they were talking about putting him IR.
Yeah.
He had some injuries.
He had a toe injury, and it says that he's active for week 4.
Okay, cool.
And that makes all the difference. And oh no, the Niners only have 5 first team All Pros instead of like 7. But yeah, I think Nick Bosa was also doing a lot of damage on the inside. But they had a couple
as usual.
Yeah, they had a couple of other guys getting sacks, like Kevin Givens had 2.5 sacks. Malik Collins had 1.5. Evan Anderson had 1 sack. Like, these are not the typical names. Nick Bosa had 1 sack too. These aren't the typical names that usually.
Typical 49. It's just it's also a typical 49ers game where they just dominate the game that they're in. Besides the last game, and I mean they won. Like if they lost against the Patriots, I would have been like, hey now 49ers, y'all okay over there?
Yeah, I was hoping it'd be more of a game. I'm not gonna lie, but that's just because I love chaos.
They don't have with the Patriots not having a QB at the moment, because Brissett gives me, and no disrespect to Brissett, but he's definitely like the bridge quarterback alongside some others, right? So, what can you do?
Yeah. And then do you want to get to the game that you want to talk about?
Ooh, that's why I left it there last. But let's talk about the Cardinals facing the Commanders.
Did you see this coming?
What, the Commanders or the Cardinals?
Yes.
The Cardinals, how they're losing some of these games, I would say
we were hyped on them very early. Let's say
okay, before the season, but yeah, before the season, I did say they were going to run the ball a lot, because how they drafted this past season, it was mostly let's get the tight ends, let's get the blocking tight ends, let's get some running backs in here. Not saying you're not going to throw to Marvin Harrison Jr. or anything like that, but at the end of the day, I thought they were going to run the ball a lot, which it didn't come to fruition in here. Although James Conner, he did have he had over 100 yards, 104 yards off of 18 carries and a touchdown. but the passing is kind of where like it's lacking, especially with the game 42-14. You would think Kyler would be throwing a lot, but he was 16 for 22 attempts on 142 yards, one touchdown, and that's kind of weird. He did take four sacks, but yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the only one with the a reception touchdown. Well, of course, like you could give him a touchdown per game, except for the first week, so he's been on a one touchdown per game kind of vibe. Otherwise, Commanders. I mean, hey, to the Commanders fans out there,
You got
I
a reason to
really
be
love the
happy.
fact that they drafted a quarterback. It was time to stop the band-aids after Kirk Cousins left and stuff. Even with Kirk Cousins, it was more of like a major and fancy band-aid. But now you have a quarterback to build around. Cliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator, Dan Quinn as a head coach. It just kind of came together for them.
I
But
think
Jaden Daniels, man,
I,
crazy. He is the system for them at this
he
point.
is up at this moment. I don't think it's controversial to say he's playing better than Caleb Williams. I'm not saying he's going to have a better career.
Oh, I mean, if you wanna just say who's playing like better out of all the rookie
Jaden Daniels is
quarterbacks,
playing at like Drew Brees prime level of efficiency right now, and with Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator in his ear, like as we know, it's not Dan what's his name,
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's is
How
a
you gonna
known
forget Dan
defense.
Quinn?
Yeah, I know. We should
You
if
got
he
it.
would have stayed, we would have won more Super Bowls.
Of course.
But Dan Quinn's not an offensive guy, so we know it's Cliff Kingsbury in his ear that's whispering all these things, and it's not like he has like a plethora of weapons at his disposal. Of course, Brian Robinson Jr. 101 yards with
Hmm.
a tud, Jeremy McNichols 68 yards with two tuds. Like they're not all-star level, personnel out there. You have Terry McLaurin out there to throw to. Zach Ertz, who's on the veteran end of his career. Olamide says Zacchaeus as well. He's not like he's not a WR1 in anybody's fantasy leagues. But he is executing at such an efficient level that it allows that Commanders offense to stay on schedule, and it simplifies it to a significant degree. And he's not running the ball. He's a dual threat quarterback. Everybody knows it from LSU. But he's not running the ball like a madman like an Anthony Richardson is. He's not putting himself in harm's way. But he did add 47 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And with all that, the Commanders had the ball for 8 more minutes than the Cardinals, and the script is important for executing the game, and you can see just that how well important it was with how much of a blowout this game turned into.
Yeah, no, and there was no defense from the Cardinals in here as well. In terms of sacks, they had no sacks compared to the Commanders' 4 sacks, split across. Like Bobby Wagner got a half sack in there.
And it's crazy they did that without Chase Young too, right? Like just saying.
Yeah, they did it without Chase Young. They got after. They had a lot. Like their defense had a lot of tackles. They got after the ball. So
Was it
really,
Montez Sweat that also came from
yeah, Montez
Commanders?
Sweat and Chase Young. They were their 2 edges, and then they traded them off to the Bears, and then Chase Young
Bears.
went to the 49ers, and then Montez Sweat went to the Bears.
Is Chase Young? I don't think Chase Young is still in the 49ers,
No,
but he's on
he's
the
not on.
Texans.
I don't think he's on. What team is he? I don't even know what team he's on.
I'll look
now,
that up, but I think that just
Yeah.
goes to show you what Dan Quinn can do with a defense.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans.
I mean, oh yeah. But at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels, they know, like from a dual threat perspective, from a dual threat QB perspective, that's what he is. But he's still passing the ball. He can throw it deep. I think even in the beginning, he wasn't throwing the ball deep as he usually does. But then over time, gets more confident throwing the ball deep. Scary Terry is having a touchdown per game kind of vibe right now. Love to see it. I can't hate on the Commanders right now, and for the Cardinals. If you keep on losing, I would even say some pieces of your defense, if not your offense, are up for trade, in my opinion.
So when the Texans were keying up to be the team that they are right now, I think I remember you and I were talking. This was the year that we were off. I was like, watch out for the Texans. They have a guy like Damian. It was Damian Pierce at running back.
Yeah, Damian Pierce.
They had a solid defense. I don't know. I mean, Damian Pierce hasn't been doing much for the Texans this year, but
Nah, he's not. He's not their starting running back. It's Mixon right for them.
Yeah, Joe Mixon, I think, is a starter. They
Hmm.
had an offensive line, they had a defensive line, like watch out, and then they go and they get C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. and then or maybe then they go ahead and go off. Actually, so then that might have been 2 years ago that we were looking at that, and now Texans are contenders in that conference. I mean, obviously you have the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens,
Hmm.
everybody else. But they're a
Also
very
know
solid
that
team.
like to have that success, right? And that's something we'll probably talk about one day is like for a young quarterback having stability and consistency, not just in what he does off the field and on the field in the weight room and on the field, but also like he has consistent coaches, the same one in his ear, and not like in the case of Bryce Young having like
Yeah,
out
Bryce
of
Young
his
is a,
4 years he had like 3 or 4 head coaches in his tenure so far. Like
yeah
that's crazy, and
yeah,
not even including like offensive coordinators on top of the head coaches. So
and
I'm
so
glad they kind of benched him, give him some time, and say, "Hey, soak it in." I think you right like for Bryce Young, he really needed to like just get some more time in the tank. That's all he needed.
yeah, and
But
so the point I'm trying to
man,
make with the Commanders is because this slipped completely past me. You wouldn't think it from a team that trades away two of their star defensive linemen like that,
hmm
including a sec. I think Chase Young was a second overall pick.
hmm
Uh, but that team is geared up to make a rise like the Texans have. And if they can draft well for the next couple of drafts, I think they still have all their picks. I don't think they traded away anything to get Jaden Daniels or anything like that. I
top
could
of
be
my
wrong.
head, I think they still have their picks. Yeah,
So they're in a good spot to continue to build around Jaden Daniels. So they're going to be a fun team to watch in years to come, especially in a sorry division like that contains the Giants. The Cowboys are hit or miss. The Eagles seem to be kind of what are we now without Jason Kelsey, which is he's an offensive lineman. They
give
all
that man
often
some
get
respect.
they often get overlooked, but they haven't been running the tush push without him, and
Yeah.
I think that's because Jason Kelsey was just so ridiculously aggressive at the line of scrimmage that he would get that 1 yard by himself, and Jalen Hurts with
Hmm.
those strong ass legs would get in right behind him.
Of course, but hey, at the end of the day, we love to kind of see the shakeup across the league, especially outside of the NFC West, of course. So, hey, Jaden Daniels, I want to see more from him. That's 3 straight wins that they've gotten since their first week loss. So let's see how long they keep that up. Because again, I want to see now. I want to see when the Commanders go off against like the Cowboys and everyone else, because they're kind of talking who's the best team in the NFC East right now. Because the Cowboys and the Giants game, that was a little bit of an unwatchable game.
Unwatchable
Yeah,
is putting it nicely.
very nicely. But yeah, Cardinals, if the losing streak keeps going, even into like the big divisional games, they may actually be looking into trades. I don't know if the Rams are in a position to trade for more picks in terms of like, star power to trade off, but Cardinals have like Buda Baker, and some other folks on there that have been a long running in there. But I mean, that's like their only big like name off the top of your head that's like, ooh, who could be up for a trade? Definitely Buda Baker. But Buda Baker is still doing a lot for that team on the defense. He had 10 solo tackles, 14 total, but otherwise, it didn't amount to much. Not sure where that offense went with Kyler Murray. Like you would think when you're that low in the game, only having a touchdown in the first and the third quarter. Like I see that they were trying to run the ball, but like they probably started needed throwing it more. But you would think it would have been a Marvin Harrison Jr. day. But otherwise, I can't say much. We'll just see how that comes up, especially when we start to face everyone else because we haven't faced anyone in the NFC West yet. So
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's round out this video with looking at who the other team.
sure.
So if you for the Seahawks, tune into our Week 5 preview, and we'll break that one down. Seahawks play the Giants. I mean, I
hmm
don't think it's revolutionary to say who we think is going to
Only
win.
summary I got for you to go watch the video, but the only thing is like that it's winnable if we
Yeah.
play it right.
Yeah. So let's look at who the rest of the NFC West is playing. We got the LA Rams. They're playing the Packers, and the Packers. I mean, they were kind of like Jordan Love. He's still hobbled, made a lot of
hmm
mistakes, but put up solid numbers and made it close towards the end.
Yeah,
I I, I
what
think
do
the
you think
Packers.
on that
I
one?
think the Packers get right on this one.
That's if they keep putting Love out there, and or if he gets injured again, because he's still hobbled. So if they can't, you said it was the Rams facing them, right?
Yeah, Rams and Packers.
So if it's the Rams, it depends if they can get after the quarterback. If you can get after the quarterback, I think you have a chance with the Packers. Otherwise, you're going to just get passed on and ran on with that team.
Yeah, I think this is. I think the Packers can handedly win this one.
Hmm.
Not any disrespect to Rams, but Same thing I kind of said with the Vikings versus Packers,
Hmm.
where I was thinking that the Vikings defense will give the Rams or the Packers offense more fits than the Packers defense will give the Vikings offense.
Hmm.
I'll flip that here. I think the Packers defense will give the Rams more fits than the Rams defense will give the Packers
Rams are trying to
offense.
find them offensive pieces or what's left at
Yeah,
this
they're
point.
they're 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 picking up the pieces right now. Um,
Yeah.
and then so the other game is we actually have a conference game or a division game with the Niners playing the Cardinals at 49ers.
And we only had Rams and Cardinals so far, so now we're going to see how Cardinals shake up against the 49ers. I want to see if they use that run. Please use that run offense. Use those three tight ends, tight end formations on them. But um, we'll see how that one goes. I kind of see the 49ers getting at this one, especially if you can get after Kyler. Especially how the Commanders got after them in this game. But yeah, we'll see how that works. But
I I really don't. I mean, the safe bet is probably 49ers, but I think the Cardinals have pieces in specific places, and I'm thinking of Marvin Harrison Jr. specifically, where
just
he's
feed him the ball.
just feed him the
Feed
ball.
James Conner the ball.
They have offensively, they have all the pieces, and I mean, Kyler. I think they're gonna try to leverage Kyler's legs early to kind of
Hmm.
set up the offense to play how they will. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say a hopeful Cardinals. Let's say that.
Oh, to keep things interesting,
Yeah.
sure. But I'm just going to say it's going to be the 49ers. Unless they can make it. If they make it a game, I'll be watching. Don't get it twisted.
I mean, we're gonna keep our eye on that one.
Of course.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. That's all we have here at Miss Reps. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you again next time.
Peace.